goes. That's a good sign that they did the little dance right here. It's like the time's right. We're here at the right time.
Since the beginning, the Winnemem Wintu people have been singing for the waters at their Genesis Spring in Northern California. Now they embark on a journey to meet lost relatives and make new family. From their sacred Mount Shasta, across the Pacific, to Mount Araki, sacred to New Zealand's Maori people.
So we welcome you here, and we give you our greetings that peace and goodwill may prevail amongst us all.
For thousands of years, the Winnemem people lived along the river now called McCloud. They met hard times after the gold rush madness and California land grab, and the rejection of their treaty. But still, the tribe survived with their river and their Chinook salmon relatives. But in 1945, the 600-foot-high Shasta Dam cut off the river, flooding Winnemem homes and halting the salmon's ancient journey upstream. The tribe believed their salmon relatives were gone forever. When they held a war dance on the dam to stop it being raised even higher, the story went around the world. Soon, a message came in. Your relatives are alive and well, here in New Zealand.
We are here speaking up for the salmon because that is our belief, and that's what salmon has done for us. They have given us our voice when they used to have their own voice.
This is a sacred area for the Maori. They have cleared that for us with their ancestors, and so it's been handed over to do the ceremony, and I feel really, really strong about that. Everything will be good. That the salmon will hear us and understand why we're here, and that's going to change our world back. It'll bring it back to what it was.
At a hatchery on New Zealand's Rakaya River, the release of salmon fry to begin their journey to the sea is a release of emotions as well.
Letting the fish go. That was hard. Because it was like getting to see somebody for the first time and then having to let them go.
My heart is really... I wish Grams were here. My dad and Aunt Maud and everybody. Because even though we see salmon on the Sacramento River, we don't really know which ones were going to be the McCloud River salmon. But we know that these guys are. These are the ones that will come up to Sucker Pool. They'll come up to Adina. They'll go all the way to the falls if we let them.
So, Caleen, right now your tribe is working to convince federal biologists and federal agencies to bring those New Zealand salmon back home to California. And I came to your village to write the literary version of that journey you're on. And one of the first days I was there, we were talking outside and you were explaining how the ranch dogs that run around there keep the bears from coming down the nearby mountain. And I, wide-eyed suburbanite, said, "There are bears here?" And you looked at me like I was an alien and you replied, "Mark, it's called Bear Mountain." And you probably didn't have to be an Indigenous person to figure that one out. But it does hint at something, I think, and that's that your people, your tribe, have a knowledge of this land that spans some tens of thousands of years, whereas we've only been here for 200 years. I've only been here for 1 or so. And you described the Winnemem as the first salmon scientist, the first river scientist, the first forest scientist of this land, and I think we want to talk about what you mean by that. And when you went to New Zealand, you saw the Maori language written on billboards next to English. You saw the Maori having the sole right to sell traditional resources. You also saw the government acknowledging their right to oversee conservation projects on their watershed. Tell me what it was like to see that and how it affected your tribe and yourself.
Yeah, the visit to New Zealand was a great experience in being in another country, and many of us have never been to another country. And to see the status that they had in their own country was appalling for many of my tribal members, that we have never been treated that way. We've never been accepted as having the expertise to do anything with our fish or our trees or our conservation. Yet all of the elements here are in our DNA. Salmon is in our DNA. The trees, everything here is in us. And so we have this long, long history of relationship with salmon and with our land, our rivers, our water.
And so you're a educator by degree. You don't have a PhD or any alphabet soup after your name, but you are the chief of the salmon people. And so tell us why that should be enough for the Winnemem to be seen as salmon experts and to have a seat at the table.
Yeah. Well, you know, my grandma said those letters behind those names, like it's filed higher and deeper, but doesn't really achieve anything of the big picture. Those things are like a minute clip in time of information that's so incomplete that they make mistakes over and over again. Instead of taking in the entire watershed, from flowers to insects to fish to the bears, everything that uses it and adds to it and makes it what it is missing from the educational system. That's what we carry, is that knowledge that's been handed down generation after generation, but also through our stories and our culture that teaches us our relationship to all of those things, not our conquering them.
And also you have an idea in your mind of what this land was like before development. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I see that the waters were, you could drink out of any river here. You could drink out of any spring in the mountains. And just in that view of what, you know, how California has changed, the experts have missed how to take care of the land, how to be a part of it and not just be a taker.
How would this country be different if the Winnemem were recognized as the experts, as the first salmon scientists?
I think the world would be different in the fact that other people would realize that salmon are a magical fish, that no one teaches them what to do or when to do it. They only do things only once, one time. They swim up the river and they lay their eggs only one time in their life. Nobody shows them what river to go back to, but somehow they're connected to a spiritual way of life. And they swim and they lay their eggs, and when those eggs come to be fried, all of a sudden they, among all the fish in the river, decide that they gotta go to the ocean. They're the only ones that's gotta go to the ocean. Nobody teaches them they gotta go to the ocean, but they do. And when they get to the ocean, they have to then find a way to acclimate to the ocean because it's salt water. And they only do that as they go into the estuary. That's why the estuary is so important. And then when they come back out of swimming in the ocean for 5 to 7 years, they find the exact same estuary, acclimate back into fresh water, swim all the way up the river and find the very water that they were hatched in, off of, you know, in our case, the Sacramento River. So the McCloud River salmon are at the end of the run. They are the most important part of that river system, the end of the run.
And one thing that you talk about that's very interesting is things that are lost in translation when we're talking about chief and an expert and story. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, well, we do have a language barrier to some degree, and we didn't really recognize this right off. But, you know, in telling people, well, what's your leadership position? And you have to say, well, I'm the chief, because they have somewhat knowledge of what a chief is, you know, chief of the fire department, chief of public health. They've got several chiefs. So if I say I'm a chief, then they think, oh, you're in command. But in reality, I would call myself we, meaning the one that people comes to because of the knowledge of medicines and traditions and culture. You know, you've earned those places of knowledge that maybe you have more help, like salmon have the help of the sacred places or of sacred pools or of the salmon themselves, so that you have that difference, but you don't really get to order people around. And then the big issue is between religion and stories, because you know we go down in the architect's book as having stories about things, or the anthropologist talking about our culture in a story form. And for us, you know, it's like, okay, I guess that's kind of a story, but in our language it would be a bala. And a bala is like events that have happened over the years. And you retell that event, and it's not like a fairy tale.
So there's a story you tell that I think is very relevant to what we're talking about today, and it starts with an old man sitting by the river.
Yeah, the old man is sitting by the river, and the young guy comes up and says, is there a way across the river? And he goes, well, I don't know. All the while the old man's thinking, no, there's no way across the river, but he doesn't know for certain, because in his mind he's going to let that young man go up the river and discover whether or not there's a way across the river, because he doesn't know whether or not a tree fell across the river last night and there is actually a way to get across. So when the young man gets back, he'll be reminded to know the fact again, that no, there's no way across. But we don't pretend to know everything all the time or enforce it and prevent people from doing their own investigation, their own knowledge seeking, because there might have been something else up there on the river that he's supposed to see.
Well, your tribe's knowledge has been tens of thousands of years in the making, but unfortunately we only have about 10 minutes for this interview. Thank you, Caleen.
Thank you.